Let's see here. Well. We're right in the middle of transitioning from the downtrend to the uptrend, right? Let's just look at this thing from a context of the highest time frame here. 3 hour chart is in a downtrend, right? Huge gap down, hits this demand zone and is pulling back up into the trend cloud, right? So we have to assume that the price action is going to pull into trend cloud, right? Correction into trend cloud, impulse down, right? Correction into trend cloud, impulse down. We have to assume that. Otherwise, we'll drive ourselves crazy, guessing. Same thing on the 1 hour chart, right? Impulse down, gap down, correction into trend cloud, made a little move down, complex retracement, going to hit the 50 and the gap fill, impulse down. This is what we have to assume because trend and momentum are to the downside. Right? We're just starting to cross back over here. But this is definitely a resistance level, right? The 50 simple. It's pretty easy to tell the story of price action when you look at it visually like this, right? Here's the 50 simple, here's the trend cloud on the 3 hour chart. Here's the 50 simple, here's the trend cloud on the 1 hour chart, right? We're in a downtrend. Impulse down, correction into trend cloud, impulse back down. We have to assume that, just like it did here on the 15-minute chart, right? Impulse down, correction into trend cloud, impulse down, right into the demand zone, right? High time frame demand zone. And this high time frame demand zone, I believe, is it's pretty much just a market edge. Yeah. See, this here is pretty much just a market edge, right? That is just a market edge. And there's another one down here. I was hoping that we would hit something like this, the extreme down. That's another just market edge. That's really just a market edge. This is where price came into. There's really no drop base rally or nice looking formation here. It's just a market edge. Price did leave this area very quickly and just kept going, consolidated, did it again here, right? Market edge, boom, boom, boom. Little double bottom here, right? Very bullish candle right here on the 1 hour chart. 3 o'clock in the morning, came down, retested that same area. This is Sunday's opening range. And what did I tell you, man? It's always significant. That Sunday opening range is always significant in some way. So in hindsight, it's like, oh man, why didn't I take that demand zone? Why didn't I just take this? Well, it goes against what we tested and what we set up. There's nothing you can do about that, right? This would have been your only piece of information. And like I said yesterday in the review, I said yesterday, you can take a chance on it. You can. You're allowed to take a chance on this. It's just that, it's a bit of a guess. It's a bit of a guessing game because it's like, oh, is it this demand zone? Or because momentum and trend are working together to the downside, is it going to pull back all the way to here? And you don't know. So it's a guess. And we don't really like that. We want to have all three of those conditions that we created, right? We want to have all three conditions met so that we could actually take a trade with momentum and trend on our side. This demand zone held, right? The opening range, the Sunday opening range, that held. So these are all good signs that price is going to be heading up. We've got the trend reversal on the 15-minute chart. Why not just wait until we have all of our conditions met and then, take the breakout of the opening range? It seems to work very well. In fact, it works phenomenally well. 4 competitions. My goodness, it's ripping through it just ripped through that zone on the open. Oh, if only we got in down here, right? If only we took a little chance. Well, we just don't have all the data on it. It's okay. It's all right. We're going to just focus on what we built and we're going to focus on using it, right? So 9:30, and so far we've got a bearish candle forming the opening range, and we are not quite above the 50 simple moving average on the 1 hour chart, right? But we're getting there, right? So we're kind of in between. We're in between uptrend and downtrend. We're in between. When you're in between this stuff, when you're in between, it usually, it usually goes sideways a little bit before it chooses a direction, right? A little bit of consolidation before it chooses a direction. That was a massive move up on the open. It's only 9:30 and it just boom, just took off, right? So the 1 hour momentum has shifted. We still have strong momentum to the downside on the 3 hour. And we like those two components to be in alignment. We like them to be in alignment. I don't know how much longer it's going to take me to take a small chance on these high time frame demand zones using just one piece of information. I could have, risked one contract. It's just, whenever we do that, whenever we do that, we end up, you know, kind of giving back 60, $70, $100, and I don't know. I just got sick of it. I just got kind of sick of, I got kind of sick of just, guessing. It's like, look, we've got a strategy, 70% accurate, right? We've got a strategy. And boy, does it work well. You just have to wait for those. You have to wait for those conditions to be met pre-market anytime. Now, I know for a fact that anytime we saw all of our conditions met, especially to the upside, when we saw all of our conditions met pre-market, boy, we couldn't wait to get into trade. We couldn't wait because we knew. So what if you only took a chance on that? What if you just took the risk on those spectacular setups? I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. When you build up a bit of a buffer, when you build up your account, maybe you've built up $3,000, $4,000. You see something, like a high time frame demand zone, price comes in there, starts reacting, like we saw just now, like we're looking at right now, and you want to take a risk, you know, sure. Because in your own account, maybe you place one micro contract and the risk is $70 or something like that, and you've built up your account, $3,000, $4,000 ahead, then you might be able to hold on to that micro contract for the rest of the month. That's worth it. It's got to be in that type of mindset. It's not like, oh, I'm going to risk one micro contract and take it 2 to 1 or something like that. Or, all right, I made $200 on this micro, close out. If it's something like that, you gotta give it the room to run as far as it's going to go. Otherwise, just sit tight. Otherwise, just sit tight. So we'll see here. So very early on the opening range, and we are ripping through supply zones. Let's get rid of this, get rid of that. We ripped through that, filled the gap, and it said, I'm going to this one, right? So I think what's going to happen here is we're going to see the 1 hour trend. Maybe we'll be in some kind of pseudo trend, right? This pseudo downtrend where trend cloud is red, but price is above the trend cloud. What does that mean? That's a pseudo trend, right? And we can make our observations today and really just tell the story of price action, see what's going on. But we do get anxious, don't we? Not anxious, but we're like, damn, I really want to be making money right now. I really want to be passing that Topstep Combine. And all I had to do was just take one contract right in here somewhere. Yeah. But like I said, it's only one piece of information. It ended up working. And that's when you feel stupid, right? It's like, oh man, it's a demand zone. Price always reverses out of a demand zone. Well, no, right? Not really. So we like to stick to rules, and when we do, but we see the trade work out, we're like, maybe I don't need to stick to my rules. Maybe I don't need to stick to these rules. Look, the trade worked. I could have had $1,000 in the bank. Well, it doesn't always work out like that. Probably more often than not, it doesn't work out. So now we've got some mixed signals here now. Still, right? Momentum and trend working to the downside, and we pulled into a supply zone, and we've got a big move, right? We've got a big move coming off of this supply zone here, right? 6 minutes on the opening range. Trend, 3 hour chart, down. Momentum, 3 hour chart, down. Trend, 1 hour chart, down. Momentum, 1 hour chart, slightly up, right? Slightly up, right? Pulls below negative 100, pulls back into that middle shaded area, does not break above positive 100 yet. So technically, you still have a lot of gas in the tank, you still got some octane, some high octane in the tank, to the downside on this on our trend here. So everything's basically down. Well, what do you look for in that condition? Supply zones, right? You look for supply zones. So this thing went from our Sunday opening range inside of a demand zone all the way up to a supply zone. From here all the way to here. It wasn't right. So if you were going to take that, we had a demand zone here. We had a supply zone here off of this right here, right? We had this supply zone, and we said, hey, this is a supply. This is a nice supply zone right here. Which one's it going to be? Which one is it going to be? Is it going to be this supply zone or this supply zone? You don't know, right? You don't know. So price comes up, rips through that supply zone, hits this one, and now is reacting quite ferociously off of it. It's interesting the body of the candles are in here. Okay, so very bearish candle forming on the opening range. 3 minutes left. Cycling down on the 1 hour. 3 hour downtrend. 1 hour downtrend. Hits a supply zone, right? Cycling down on the 1 hour. We can negate this, right? Let's just not confuse ourselves. Get rid of it. Line up everything that is making sense. Line up everything that's making sense to you. This cycle was hooking up, so let's just get rid of it. It's not in line with our plan. Downtrend 3 hours, strong momentum to the downside. Downtrend 1 hour, kind of neutral on the momentum here. Cycling down though, right? Bonus. My goodness, look at this. So basically, what are we getting here? We're getting a retest. We're getting a retest of the Sunday opening range. There we go. We may get another shot. I mean, look at this. This is a very dramatically negative, right? This is a dramatic candle here. But everybody who went long is like, oh my God, we better get out of this thing. And by the time it gets back down here, might be it might be ready to go long again. We don't know. There are too many variables at stake here. There are too many variables in play here, and we don't like that. We just don't like that. It's guessing. I don't like playing the guessing game. I like to wait for all of my conditions to be met in one direction. Then we take the breakout, right? By the time everything gets back down to this demand zone, it might shift back to the upside. So what do we have here? We've got some sideways movement, right? Drop, base, rally, and then it kind of went boom all the way up to here very rapidly, hits that supply zone, and now we're making our way down, right? With momentum and trend working to the downside. These are the things that happen. Does it make sense to go long right now? My goodness, not to me. But, 5 minutes ago when we were, okay, there's the opening range right there. Let me turn that on. We're already breaking out to the downside. We're already breaking out to the downside. There it is. Let's open it up and look at it. This is the situation, right? Like I said, trend and momentum to the downside and broke out to the downside right away. And we're running right into the Sunday opening range as well as that demand zone. What do we do in this situation? My goodness, we would be shorting right into demand. We'd be shorting right into demand that is already holding. I don't want any part of that, right? It all makes sense when you have everything visual on your chart. When everything is nice and visual, you can read price action clearly, and it just helps you make better decisions, right? It's helping us make these decisions. It's like, wow, do I really want to go short into this demand zone that held? So it's like, oh man, we were like, why didn't I take this demand zone? Even though it's just one piece of information, went all the way to supply and then boom, ripped back down. You would have had to have been following that with a trailing stop, right? Where do you put that? There's really there's very little structure. There's very little structure. And that's a very stressful situation because look at what it did. Let's say we took the breakout right from here from yesterday, it just kind of went sideways. This freaked you out if you were up at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Retested this area and then started to leave and rapidly shot up here, rapidly shot up there, and then rapidly shot back down. Break to the upside very quickly, break to the downside really quickly. And now it's breaking back up to the upside. Guys, very stressful and difficult to trade. These are the trades that you've got to filter out just for your mental health, Yeah, you could get lucky. You can put the trade on and just forget about it or something, let it do whatever it's going to do. Sometimes that's best, but if we wait for those spectacular setups, I mean, look at this. How can you predict what's going to happen here? Rip to the downside, rip to the upside, rip back down. Wait for the better setup, right? The more predictable setup. And we have it, right? We have got it. 3 hour chart, focus on the momentum on the 3 hour chart. Where is it? Right? Right now it's down. 1 hour trend is price below 50 simple. Yeah. Make sure that that CCI is below the zero line or below negative 100. Great. All pre-market. When that is all pre-market, we jump at those opportunities. We jump at those opportunities. My goodness. And look at how wide this opening range is too. Holy schmoly. Where are you going to put your stop loss on that thing? Right? What does it look like on the 5 minute? Wow. Wow. Look at that. So 5 minute, that 5 minute candle really looked like it was gonna start to rip to the downside there. So we don't have a close. We don't have a close below with the 5 minute candle. We don't have a close above. Got a little bit of a breakdown, right? Break to the downside. Kind of comes into this demand zone area from supply zone to demand zone. My goodness. I bet there's a lot of people confused right now. Like, what's going on? What is going on? Man, you got to filter that stuff. You get frustrated, you get bored, and you just start pushing buttons. Oh, just get in, see what happens. Oh my God, that's terrible. You worked hard for those profits, to give it back because you're bored. Boy, I mean, what the heck is going on here? Now it's going back to the upside. See how it rips through that trend? When it's not following a trend, oh boy, look out. So I was definitely, for me, when I'm looking at this now, I'm like, well, I'm glad I decided to, stick to the plan. We were talking about that in the Facebook chat, right? We have a ton of data on this strategy. We know that it works amazingly well. Holy cow, just stick to that. Otherwise, it's guessing. I think I was writing something about that yesterday. How do you know when you're guessing, and how do you know when you are following a strategy? Guessing is when you abandon your rules, right? We've got this strategy. We used it in 4 different competitions. We made $6,000 to $8,000 in each competition. Never lost a dime of the competition money by doing this one strategy. Sticking to that, you're not guessing. You're following a strategy, right? There are rules and there are conditions that need to be met. That's a strategy. But when you abandon the strategy and you say, well, this is a demand zone on the high time frame. I know it's only one piece of information. If I take this trade, I'm going against momentum and trend, but I don't know. I got a feeling about it. Guessing. Now you're guessing, right? So I think that's the lesson in this video that will title it, the difference between guessing and using a strategy. So when you could be right when you guess, I was saying it the other day, on day six of the funded trader, I was saying I can take a chance at this. I'd be guessing at it. It all comes down to that risk, right? Obviously, you're not going to, go with the full contract of the Nasdaq or, you know, a full 10, a full, 5 contracts of the micro. It's like one contract. Let's if we're gonna take a guess, let's just take a small risk, right? One contract. But I didn't even want to do that. I had a conversation with this company called Vector Algo yesterday, and it was pretty interesting. They're in Canada. That's probably why they were so polite. But I was talking to them, and it's basically I think they have 30 different algos, algorithms, and you're able to use them in certain prop trading firms. They are a big fan of Apex. Okay, so it seems like they're kind of partnered with Apex. Apparently, you could have 20 accounts on Apex. Apex does not have its own copy trader. You have to use a separate third-party software, but you can do it. So with Apex, it's a little bit more expensive. Apparently, it's like 170, 177, I think, something like that, dollars to do their combine. Oh, okay. My meeting will end in 10 minutes because I'm on the free version here of Zoom. That's fine. So, yeah, so Apex, you're allowed to have 20 different accounts. That's awesome. So, if we're doing this, if we're doing $6,000 to $8,000, yeah, $6,000 to $8,000 using this strategy, guys, that's a lot of money. Now that's our strategy. I don't know. They also have a breakout version for the Nasdaq specific. So they built something specifically for the Nasdaq as well. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know what their data is on it. I don't know what their backtesting data is on it. But they do share inside of a live Discord. Eddie and Seth, I bet you guys know what that looks like on Apex. But yeah, so I mean, they're telling me, she told me 20. She told me you could have 20 different accounts that you can copy trade on. And I was like, wow, okay. So I'm not sure. So there are advantages to having a couple of different prop trading firms under your belt, or working a couple of different prop trading firms at the same time. Once you have a strategy like this in place, or if you've got automated system with these algos or something. It was $6,500, okay, to purchase these algorithms. It's usually a hefty price, right? $6,500. And then a month. So it's rather expensive. So for a beginner, and they always say, now some of these things you don't have to touch and blah blah blah. Nonsense. Nonsense. I don't believe in turning something on and just being hands free on it, A beginner might think that's great. I don't know. I don't know about that. But I cannot see a beginner trader who has maybe learned, been at this for a couple of months. Let's say you just started day trading and you've been at it for like 2 or 3 months, and you're going to go join a prop trading firm with this algorithm, and you're going to, please give me a break. No way. No way, no how. You join a prop trading firm, you better have at least 2 years under your belt. And I think that's the big misconception. Whenever I make a video and put it on YouTube, I always label it as advanced. This is not beginner stuff that we're talking about and working. So I think that's the big, I don't think it does anybody any good to say, oh, you're a beginner. Oh yeah, do this strategy. It's gonna be all jolly and good, and you join yourself a prop trading firm, gonna make you lots of money. I think you lead people down the wrong path. You lead people down the wrong path. Yes, that's right, Kazi. That's right. From 100 to 1 million in a month. In a month. Good night. Good night. No. And you know what? To sell a course, you're gonna lie to people like that to sell. Oh, don't, please don't. Spare me your euphemisms. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so hopefully people will find this on YouTube, and if they're a beginner or whatever, and hey, I'm sorry, that's my opinion, but if I was going to give advice to my kid or my brother or family member, I'd be like, look, you need to get, that's Kazi saying that is what gives the industry a bad rep. Yeah, It's what gives the industry a bad rep. And it's just what leads people down the wrong road to failure. We're not here to lead people to failure, right? We're here to be a success coach, right? And because we love this stuff, because we really love the process of day trading, and there's nothing that's going to change our mind about that. Like everybody here today, it's like no one is going to be like, that's it, forget this thing. If anything, you just kind of read price action. You're having a bad week or something or whatever. But we're not here to lead people down the wrong road and misguide them for a sale. Oh God, I hate sales. I hate it. It's just terrible. I believe in bringing value to people, and yeah, there's a price tag to something that's valuable. But when people like like that guy that Kazi found, 100 to 1 million, $100. You give me $100 and you'll make $1 million in 1 month, or you don't pay. Like I love that line. I hear that line all the time now, especially with these marketing agencies. If you don't make blah 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 amount of money, then you don't pay. Yeah, so just kind of ridiculous. Hey, we look at price action every day, right? On the opening range. And I think we all got really damn good at recognizing a couple of things, right? The very wide opening range, like this is pretty difficult to manage when the opening range is super wide. That's an observation we all made together as a group. And it's kind of like, that's a rough one. Where this thing is going to have to make a shallow pullback, and like if this was going to break to the upside, there's no way your stop loss is going to go all the way down here. So you got to get creative. Maybe you put your stop loss there. So many people selling courses on the internet for any industry, most of them make it seem, yeah, yeah, absolutely. They make it seem easy and great. Yeah, exactly. It's so easy. It's so easy. Yep. So it is. A strategy is easy to learn. I remember explaining the strategy to Seth for the first time. And, I was like, yeah, it's these three components. He got it right away. Like he understood it right away, when he first joined. And I was like, yeah, it's these three components have to be met to take the trade. He got it right away. The strategy is easy to understand. It's the risk management part, right? It's the risk management part and all these little bonus components, like a super wide opening range. Oh, I see. Right, because the stop loss has to go under here. Ah, I get it. Okay, that's pretty easy to understand too. If the opening range is too wide. The pseudo trend, right? The pseudo trend where you've got an uptrend, but yet price is below the uptrend. So is it an uptrend? Is it a downtrend? Like what is that? And you just have to learn to filter this stuff. Yeah, right, exactly. If it was that great of a secret, then they'd be doing it themselves instead of, sharing it with everybody. Yeah, it's pretty when you use that type of language, right? Like we love to say like, "Hey, look what I built," or "Hey, look what I made," or "Check this thing out. Look how cool it is." We're kind of talking to other people who really love this stuff. But when you start saying to the general public, anyone can do this, it's so